Welcome back. Today we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece of music tech history, the Electro Harmonix instant replay pedal.
Yeah, this was pretty obscure.
Totally obscure. It's not just some quirky effect, though. It feels like a real ghost in the machine, you know?
Yeah.
A pedal that had this incredibly short life, but somehow kind of helped sketch out modern digital sound stuff.
Definitely laid some groundwork.
We've got this stack of sources here, digging into EHX's early digital experiments, like early 80s. And our mission really is to figure out how they tried to take studio sampling, which cost like a fortune back then.
More than a house, yeah.
Right, and cram that idea into a stomp box you could put on the floor.
And it's important to get what the instant replay was. EHX already had long digital delays. This was different. It was their first real go at a performance sampler.
Okay, so not just echoes.
No, not echoes or long loops primarily. It was designed to grab a sound and fire it right back at you instantly, kind of bridging that gap, between simple looping and actual hands-on digital audio manipulation.
And the timing is just wild. They put this out around 81, 82, right before the company went bankrupt.
Yeah, the original EHX bankruptcy in 82.
It shows incredible corporate boldness, or maybe, I don't know, desperation. They were pushing this super futuristic tech when the financial walls were basically caving in.
Pretty much the definition of audacious, or maybe just desperate innovation.
Yeah, maybe both. Okay, so let's start there. To really get the instant replay, we probably need to look at its sibling, the 16-second digital delay. What was the deal between those two?
Well, they were definitely siblings, both part of EHX's big push into digital, which was a huge leap for them. But they had different jobs. Fundamentally.
Different jobs? How so?
The 16-second was all about duration, giving you those really long, ambient loops and delay trails. It was expansive.
Right.
The instant replay, though, it was about immediacy and triggering, capturing something short and firing it back.
Okay. So that distinction is crucial. The instant replay was marketed as a real-time sampler. The goal was for a musician, guitarist, keyboard player, whoever.
Producer messing with sounds, yeah.
To record a quick phrase or like a sound hit and then just trigger it instantly. Over and over, like a digital snapshot you could just deploy.
And you really can't overstate how advanced that was for a pedal back then. Digital sampling was happening in these enormous, expensive studio racks.
Right, like the Fairlight or Synclavier territory.
Exactly. So this was one of EHX's most complex digital designs. It was expensive to make, technically tricky. And yeah, it landed right as the company was going under.
So if the 16-second was like their luxury yacht, the instant replay was maybe a prototype submarine, complex, expensive, kind of niche.
That's a good analogy, actually.
Okay, so if it was that advanced for its time, what was actually inside it? Let's talk engineering, because this wasn't clean modern digital. This was the gritty early days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're talking early digital sampling chips. Probably 8-bit, maybe 12-bit resolution at best.
8-bit, wow. So for anyone listening who's used to like 24-bit audio today, that's ancient.
It's incredibly primitive by modern standards, and that meant the memory was extremely limited. You were lucky to get maybe 2 seconds, possibly up to 4, depending on the setting, but really short.
Wait, just a couple of seconds. If the 16-second could do, 16 seconds, wasn't that super limiting? Could you even capture a useful riff in that time?
Well, that's the thing. That limitation kind of faced the creativity. You couldn't record a long solo or a whole chord progression.
So what was it for then?
It was really designed for grabbing short sonic events, like a vocal yelp, a sharp snare hit, maybe a really short staccato guitar phrase. The memory limit shifted the focus from what can I record to how can I mess with this tiny slice of sound.
Okay, that makes sense. It changes how you'd approach using it entirely. And I bet the physical pedal reflected that internal complexity. It wasn't some small, cute box.
No way. It was that classic, huge, heavy EHX steel chassis, big footprint.
Yeah, the bent steel ones.
Exactly, with those bold kind of sci-fi graphics they were doing then. And crucially, it needed AC mains power, no running us off a 9-volt battery.
That AC power cord. That tells you something right there. Lots of juice needed, probably generated some heat.
For sure. It was bulky, heavy, tethered to the wall.
Yeah.
It wasn't your average throw it in the gig bag stomp box. It felt more serious, like a piece of studio gear almost.
It demanded commitment.
It really did. The whole design screened sound design tool, not just guitar effect. And the controls definitely back that up.
What were the key controls?
Well, obviously the foot switch. But you also had a physical record play toggle switch. Pretty straightforward. And it did have a loop mode switch, so you could get the sample playing continuously, like a basic looper, which was useful.
Okay, but what about the really out there stuff? I remember reading about a trigger input.
Yes, the trigger input.
Yeah.
That was the really radical part. That's where it kind of stepped out of just being a guitar pedal.
How so?
It meant you could trigger the sample playback not just with your foot, but with an external signal, like from electronic drum pads or a drum machine, or even, crucially, a pulse from a sequencer.
Whoa. Okay, so you could sync it.
Exactly. You could perfectly sync that little audio snippet firing off with the rest of your electronic gear. For a musician in, like, 1981, that kind of integration in a pedal was... well, it was pretty much unheard of.
It feels like it was pointing towards MIDI control and interconnected setups years before that became common.
It absolutely was. It suggests EHX was maybe designing for producers or electronic musicians, even if it looked like a guitar pedal. That external sync, that's a big deal historically.
Totally. Okay, but the sound itself. Let's talk about the feature that really gives it its unique character. The speed pitch knob.
Right, the speed control. That was where the real sonic manipulation happened.
Yeah.
Because it was digital, changing the playback clock speed didn't just change the speed, it changed the pitch in real time.
So basically like grabbing a tape reel and slowing it down or speeding it up with your finger.
Precisely that concept, yeah. But digitally controlled with a knob. You could record something high-pitched, crank the speed down, and get this deep, monstrous rumble.
Or the other way around.
Yep, take a low bass note, speed it up, and turn it into this weird chipmunk squeak. That kind of real-time pitch warping and time stretching that was seriously experimental for 81 in a pedal format. You could get these really dramatic shifts instantly.
Okay, so it opened up all this crazy potential for pitch mangling and triggering. But it's all running on those primitive 8 or 12-bit chips you mentioned. What did that actually sound like? The artifacts must have been significant.
Oh, they were the main event. The beautiful noise, as you might say. Because the bit depth was so low, the sound was anything but clean or high fidelity.
Not hi-fi at all.
Not even close. You got inherent digital aliasing, which is kind of this weird, fizzy, gritty, high-frequency distortion that happens when the digital conversion struggles with complex sounds. Plus, there was just a constant background noise floor. Hissy, gritty.
So when people say lo-fi, it's not just muffled. It's got this specific digital grit.
Exactly. It's a very specific texture. Crunchy. Unpredictable.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can sound kind of broken or unstable in a really cool way, depending on what you sampled.
And that sound is why people want it now.
That's precisely it. That specific, unpredictable, often harsh, lo-fi quality is why noise musicians, industrial artists, experimental producers, they hunt these things down. The flaws are the features.
Right.
You're buying this relic because it sounds kind of messed up in a way that modern, perfect digital gear just can't replicate easily. It has character baked into its limitations.
That's the fascinating irony, isn't it? The thing that made it technically inferior back then is its main selling point now. Okay, let's put it in context. EHX was selling this creative tool. How did it stack up conceptually against the big boys of sampling at the time?
Well, you mentioned them earlier, the Fairlight CMI, the Synclavier, these massive workstation systems.
Yeah, the things that cost like $40,000, $50,000 back then, maybe more.
Astronomical prices, only accessible to top-tier studios or huge pop stars.
Right.
They offered sampling, sequencing, synthesis, but at a completely different scale and price point.
So the instant replay wasn't really competing with those.
Not directly on features or fidelity, no, but conceptually. EHX was trying to bring a sliver of that power down to the working musician. It was expensive for a pedal, sure, but way, way less than a Fairlight.
So it was about accessibility, democratizing the idea.
Exactly. Giving you a taste of that instant sampling and manipulation magic right there on your pedal board. They were competing on immediacy and, well, relative affordability. It was about getting that core idea of real-time sampling into more hands.
Which leads us nicely into its legacy. Why is this obscure, short-lived pedal so important, especially for EHX history? You mentioned 4 key points when we were prepping.
Right. Okay, so first, and probably most important, it pushed into digital sampling when that tech was basically locked away in super expensive studios. It proved sampling could be miniaturized, conceptually at least.
Point 1, miniaturization proof of concept.
Got it. Second, it stands as one of the very, very earliest dedicated stomp box samplers. It put that complex studio function literally under your foot.
Okay.
This was years before affordable rack samplers became common.
Okay, point 2, pioneering the sampler pedal format.
Third, and this really speaks to EHX's whole vibe back then.
Yeah.
It's sheer, almost reckless boldness. They released this niche, futuristic, expensive thing right as the company was collapsing financially.
Point 3, extreme corporate audacity. Hubris, even.
Maybe, but definitely innovative right up to the end. They took huge risks. And finally, fourth, alongside its sibling, the 16-second delay, the instant replay effectively invented the category of performance looping and sampling in pedal form.
Right.
They laid down the basic blueprint record, playback, trigger, loop, manipulate speed pitch, that pretty much every digital looper and sampler pedal is built on ever since.
So point 4, blueprint for modern looper samplers. That's a pretty significant legacy for such a rare pedal. What's its status today? You find one on eBay, what are you looking at?
You're looking at rare, expensive, and probably fragile. Original units are hard to come by, and because they use those early, often custom digital components, they're prone to failure. The memory chips especially can just die.
And unlike the 16-second, which EHX has reissued in various forms over the years.
Right. The 16-second has had modern reissues, clones, updates.
The instant replay hasn't really had that. No official modern version.
Not a direct, faithful reissue, no. There are modern pedals that do similar things, but nothing captures that exact circuit and its specific sound. That scarcity, combined with its unique, gritty sound being tied to its aging, unreliable parts, that fuels the cult status.
So owning one is like owning a piece of playable, slightly unstable history.
Pretty much. You're buying a time capsule of early, raw, digital audio. Its fragility is part of its mystique.
So wrapping up, this pedal, the instant replay, it feels like a really crucial moment. The point where digital audio tricks started moving from the exclusive studio realm down to the floor for experimenting musicians.
Absolutely. It validated the whole idea that you could put complex digital processes into a stomp box format. Even if the execution was primitive by today's standards, the vision was there.
And for you listening, what does this all mean now? Well, that core idea, quick, immediate digital audio capture, messing with it, triggering it, that spirit lives on everywhere.
It's in every modern looper pedal, every sampler groove box, even features in multi-effect units and synths. EHX's slightly crazy vision from the early 80s, it totally won out in the end.
It became the standard.
Completely. Which leads to a kind of interesting final thought for you to chew on.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the things that make the instant replay so sought after today are its flaws, the grit, the noise, the limited memory, the instability, the rarity, does that suggest that sometimes maybe technical limitations and even a bit of unpredictability are actually better for sparking creativity than having absolutely perfect, flawless, infinite digital tools?
Is imperfection the secret sauce?
Maybe. Sometimes it is. Something to think about next time you hit undo on a perfectly clean recording. Does flawless always mean better?